A lot of people think they have months worth of food stored away, but what some people fail to consider is that if the power goes out tomorrow, how much of that food is actually going to be edible in a week or 2 weeks from then. Today's video is all about what you can expect when normal food storage conditions disappear and how long these different foods are going to last. I'll go over refrigerated food, frozen meat, canned goods, pantry staples, and freeze-dried meals and those long-term quote-unquote prepper meals that I call them. Later in the video, I'm going to rank these foods from best to worst so you can see which ones you can actually count on when the power goes out and which ones of these fail faster than most people really expect them to. Now, before we get into that, let's go over the types of food. And I broke this down into 6 different categories, and we'll start with the first one, which is refrigerated foods. And this is one that's sort of overlooked sometimes because a lot of people don't think of them as part of their food storage, but if you play your cards right, they absolutely are. But refrigerated foods are important just for the normalcy aspect. If it's something that your family expects or you're something that keeps it keeps everything normal, then you're going to want to try to have this as much as possible anyway. You've got milk, eggs, cheese, lunch meat, even the leftovers in your refrigerators, the produce, all of these, a lot of them are just ingredients for meals, but they're all really important depending on what you are trying to prepare. Now, refrigerators, if you don't open them, they stay cold for about 4 hours. If you are opening them, it's a lot less because that air escapes. The food safety danger zone is 40 degrees, and it takes about 2 to 3 hours for the food to raise from whatever temperature it is to that 40 degrees. And then after it hits 40 degrees, you've got 2 hours after that until that food needs to be discarded. Now, this is according to the FDA, and if I'm going to a restaurant, I want them to follow these rules really strictly, right? But in my situation or a situation where it's emergency or a power outage, I'm not being so strict about this 2-hour rule. So anywhere between 2 and 4 hours is what I think. But there are different ways that you could power this refrigerator, at least for a few days. And one of the most cost-effective ways is just to get an inverter and an extension cord and hook it up to your vehicle, and you can run that refrigerator a couple or a few times a day just to maintain that temperature. You've also got power stations, and refrigerators take about 1,000 watts a day, but you don't need a really large power station to run these for a couple of days. A Jackery 1000 or something similar and a 100-watt solar panel, and you could keep these refrigerators running days on end. Now, eventually, there's not going to be a need for refrigeration, and this is something that a lot of people overlook. But after a week or two, all the food in your refrigerator is probably going to be gone. If the grocery stores aren't accessible, all the food that you have, there's not going to be a reason to power that refrigerator. So when you're talking about something that lasts for 3 days, yeah, you want to make sure and think about this. But something that lasts 2 weeks or 2 months, the refrigeration eventually just falls off the table and is not completely necessary. A large refrigerator anyway. And this leads me to the second category, which is frozen foods. And this surprises people because frozen foods can last a whole lot longer than some people expect. In freezers, you've got a few different types of freezers, but you've got frozen meat, you've got frozen vegetables, even prepared meals, the box meals, if you do that you can get from the grocery store, or just prepared meals that you've prepared at home. There are a few different things that will affect how long these foods stay frozen for, though. On the first day of a power outage, if your freezer is full, everything's going to stay frozen in there. If it's half full, it's going to do good, but not quite as good. And this is all contingent on how many times this gets opened in that situation. A freezer shouldn't get opened very much, if ever, on the first day. The second day is where things start to get a little bit iffy. Again, if it's still full, it may be okay. If it's half full, that's where things start to thaw, and you need to maybe move foods or figure out what you're going to do with some of those foods before they spoil. Day 3 is basically the use it or lose it day, right? And this is all if you don't have power for that freezer. Foods start to become soft, they start to thaw out, and this is where that food temperature danger zone comes into play, because now this freezer is basically a refrigerator. And day 4 without power in a freezer is really where things, it's almost one of those where you got to think about how risky is this, and should I just toss this, or should I have used this the day before? Should I have cooked this? All of these things come into play, and you need to, look at the sight, the smell, and all of that to decide whether this food is still good. But day 4 without power in a freezer is really when you need to start thinking about things. You've also got coolers and ice. They've got ice makers. Ice is going to be in short supply in a situation like this, but you could get some. There are a few different options that you have that will keep your food cool, but as far as frozen, there aren't really many. Another option is a DC refrigerator, which takes even less power, and these can be freezers or refrigerators. I've got a dual zone, which I have set up right now as a complete freezer for my meat overflow freezer, but I could change one side of this to raise the temperature of that, and one side be a refrigerator and the other side be a freezer. That would take up a little bit less energy. If it was all refrigerator and no freezer, that would take up even less energy. So there are options. You just need to think about these. And that's why refrigerated and frozen foods, I think, should be considered in your food storage, because at the very least, it gives you a few day buffer before you have to get into these other foods that we're going to talk about. And the third category is the pantry foods. And this is sort of along the same lines. It's foods that are up in your kitchen or around your kitchen, foods that get used on a daily basis, and you can stockpile a lot of these because you're going to go through them. You've got peanut butters, pastas, the rice, the flour, the oatmeal, the crackers, the snacks, the cereals, all of these things that get used on a daily basis, and those things that the family grabs whenever they want them. A lot of these pantry foods are going to last for months after you open them, but some of them, especially the flours, will attract pests and things like that. So it all depends on how these are packaged, because once they're opened, the moisture and air become the enemies of these. And then you've got the fourth category, which is canned foods. And canned foods are a staple of any good preparedness food storage plan. You've got chilies, you've got soups, you've got different types of vegetables. You've got the canned meats like the tuna, the chicken, and even some of the more expensive ones like the Keystone ground beef or pork. With canned food, it's important that you store what you eat. You don't want 14 cases of food that you're not going to go through, because then in a few years from now, you're going to be throwing 14 cases of food away. But with those foods that you will eat, that your family does eat, you want to make sure and store as many extra of those that you will go through before or shortly after they hit their best by date, although they're still going to be good after that. And you also want to pay attention to the types of food you store, because not everything in a can lasts for 20 or 30 years, although some people, it really depends on who you ask. Some people say they will, and some foods actually will. And some people just go by the best by date on the can. You've got your acidic foods that are not going to last very long at all. And these are the ones that I really don't take any chances with. The tomato products, the fruit products, and things like that will eat away at the inside of the can. And these days, these cans have the plastic lining too. So these foods I don't really mess with too much. But as you get up to the 3, 5, and 10-year foods, these canned soups and chilies and beans and canned meats and spams, all of these are really foods that I don't pay much attention to the best by dates on them, other than as a reference of when I bought them. But I've tasted food that has been 5 years, 7 years old, and it's been just fine. 10 plus years, I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking twice about it. But if you do have cans that are this age, you're just looking for bulging, you're looking for leaking, making sure they're not dented or rusted. And when you open them up, you want to make sure that they don't smell really crazy. Over the years, these foods may not necessarily go bad. They may have a different consistency and the quality may decline. So keep that in mind. It may not look like what it looked like the first year you got it, but it still might be edible. And the fifth category is your long-term foods. And these are what I call the prepper foods, whether you're talking about the 5-gallon buckets with the beans and rice, or the long-term meals like I sell over at My Survival Food, where you can buy a year's worth of food, or even just a 72-hour kit to bulk up your food supply. These foods that last a really long time, but are not the foods that you're going to have usually in your everyday rotation. Doing your DIY food storage is a great way to bulk up your food storage, and you can save a little bit of money, a lot of money actually, rather than going with these pre-made meals. But not all of them last the 25 to 30 years. You've got rice, you've got dried beans, and you even got wheat berries that will all last, and pastas that will last that 25 to 30 years. But other items like the rolled oats and the white flour and even the powdered milk, those aren't going to last as long. So keep that in mind with this long-term food storage. Just because it's in a bucket doesn't mean it's going to last 25 years. You can see flour has a really low shelf life compared to these other foods here, where the wheat berries will last 25 to 30 years. So there's a huge difference right there. You would need a wheat grinder, but you could store a whole lot more for a whole lot longer, and making bread out of wheat berries is a whole lot more healthy for you. Now, I've got one more category that I want to go through, but I want to save that for after we rank these foods that I've already talked about. And the way I ranked these foods was with 5 different categories or criteria. I ranked them as far as their shelf life, how long are they going to last? I ranked them as far as no power needed, so we're talking about refrigerated foods and things like that. Do they require cooking or do they require water? And how many calories do these foods contain? Are they going to help us get through these situations comfortably? And also, I ranked them as far as their failure risk, the spoilage, the pets, the moisture, how hard it is to store these foods. And the first tier, or the best overall emergency foods, are the canned foods and the prepackaged prepper foods. The white rice, the dried beans, the freeze-dried foods, even the wheat berries. All of these have a super long shelf life. They have a low spoilage risk. They're good on calories, especially the canned foods, and none of these require refrigeration. So these are the perfect long-term food storage foods that everyone should be storing just in case something happens that does last longer than a few days. The downside of a couple of these are you are going to need water to prepare them, and some of them are going to require fuel for cooking, although there are a few options when it comes to cooking in a grid down type environment, and some even for indoors. The tier below this are foods that are pretty good, but with a catch, and these are sort of your pantry foods, the pastas, the oats. Peanut butter is a great food because it's packed with calories and fats, and you don't have to cook it. You can just eat it, but it doesn't have the longest shelf life. You've got powdered milk, which is great for different recipes and even cereals. But these foods are going to be very useful as sort of ingredients in different meals. They're easy to store. They're practical food. They're going to taste good to your family. And none of these require refrigeration. Again, these are going to need water, and most of these are ingredients, so you're going to need to know how to prepare them. And once you open these, they don't last as long as the date on their packaging. So like the peanut butter, once you open a jar of peanut butter, that clock is ticking. When you open up the oats or the powdered milk, that clock is ticking unless you transfer them into another mylar bag with some oxygen absorbers. The next tier is the useful but short-term foods, and these are the foods in your pantry that are going to last a little while, and depending on how long they sit in there, they're going to get used before they actually go bad. You've got cereal, you've got crackers and granola bars, and even the trail mix. All of these are really good because they're easy to eat, they don't require any cooking, and they're going to be the favorites. Like I said earlier, when that pantry gets ransacked, these are the foods that are going to disappear the quickest. So they can go stale, but the odds are, unless they've been in there a while, they're not going to. And the fats turn rancid, so this is not something you would want to buy, 15 cases of granola bars, unless you're going through a lot of granola bars. This is not something you'd really want to stockpile a whole lot of in your long-term food storage. And the worst tier is the one I started this video off with, and that's the freezer foods and the refrigerated foods. The freezer foods are going to last a lot longer than the refrigerated foods, but these are the foods that you're going to need to use first, or you're going to have a way to power these refrigerators and freezers and run these for an extended period of time, however long you decide that is. They're great foods because they are valuable food, the food you eat every day. They are those normalcy foods. They're great for calories and different vitamins and nutrients, but you're going to need to use them fast. And fast is sort of relative depending on what sort of emergency power plan that you have. How much capability do you have to store energy and replenish that energy once you use it? So to simplify everything, you've got a 72-hour or less emergency, and this is where the canned foods might come in handy, ready-to-eat meals, the pantry foods, even MREs would be good in this situation, the snacks, the granola bars, the jerky. Just what you have in your pantry and your refrigerator is going to be fine in a situation like this. When you're talking about a 2-week emergency, that's where the longer term, maybe the rice, the beans, the pasta, a lot of the canned foods and things like that, and even some of the freeze-dried foods or some of those foods you have in the 5-gallon buckets. Those foods are also good for the longer term, more than 2 weeks type situation, and that's where all of those come into play. The goal of having a good food storage plan isn't to own a bunch of foods that last 30 plus years. The goal is to have enough food that lasts longer than the emergency you might face. These large scale, long-term, long timeline disasters, those are far less likely than these 72 hours or less disasters or blackouts that we're likely to face. So it's important that we have a diversified food storage. We can't afford to forget about these big EMP type events, war type events, these grid down events that could last months or possibly even years. But we can't afford to forget about the ones that are more likely, the ones that are more localized, that could last a day or 3 days. Now, I did mention there is a 6th category, and this is the forgotten foods that basically will last forever. These are the foods that people don't think about a whole lot because you hear about the beans and rice and flour and all that all the time. But honey, salt, and sugar basically have an indefinite shelf life. You've got things like hardtack and pemmican. And hardtack, if you don't know how to make bread or anything like that, what you're going to end up doing with that flour is making some hardtack. But you've got a lot of different foods that will outlast you, basically. These foods that will outlast the emergency, they'll outlast your retirement, and possibly outlast your grandchildren. There is hardtack in museums and things like that that is still edible, as edible as hardtack is in the first place today. I've got a video that goes through what I call forever foods, and these are the foods that will last a really long time. Some of these may be foods you don't want to put in your pantry. Some of them are just interesting to know, but some of them might be a good addition to your pantry. So if you're interested in that, make sure and watch that video here. Until next time, everyone, take care and prepare. We will talk to you all later.